Can you? No, mics. Someone's coming to you for the mics. We've got to get them in position. It's another 15 minutes away. But so can you get someone to turn over on the camera at the appropriate moment? I'm going to come back to it. I'll get the exposure now.
Toby?
You got the mic started?
One, two.
break this one off the end.
We'll just break this one. Yeah, break that one.
Tash, we'll break this one off the end.
No, just do one in the middle. I only did the one in the middle.
Oh.
What about?
It's
Somewhere in that wall.
just go around that side.
Hold on. Okay.
A second. Don't say that. But we've had
Just outside the door. Have you got them now? And we're going to suss it out. Some tape as well. A couple pieces of tape. Stick them to the radio mics. Right, so you won't.
under this football pitch. You know, 100 is from here to the end of the field. That's a football pitch. Think about football. Oh, this room. Oh, we got cable, so we can turn it back on. 10 meter cable.
What would you do? We could do the 25 metres stop, 25 metres stop. 25 metres. Wow. But that once put it on, if the 60 metres to the top of the clearance, that square.
Okay. So, the next...
Not recording?
They're getting something,
Yeah.
but that's down. Let's say.
Fine.
Hold it. You can hold it, but it's just live at the moment. It's live. Yeah. It's
Don't want to do too much. So like just that.
1, 2, 3. Oh, you have huge problems. 1, 2.
Afternoon. Afternoon, everybody. How do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Fantastic.
Switched on? Yeah. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming today to welcome our Prime Minister to the sunny Teesside. I'd like to give you just a couple of minutes with him to talk about any questions that you've got. Please just put your hands up, be honest, just say what you want. I've just spent 10 minutes with him. He's an absolutely fantastic guy. So a big round of applause, please, for Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bill, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Is this thing working? Can you everybody hear me? Well, listen, thank you all very much for having me along to this fantastic company today. I'm afraid there's an election on, and I hope you don't mind me explaining what it's all about. I don't want this election. Nobody. I love being Prime Minister, and you don't necessarily want to have an election, particularly in the run-up to Christmas, but we've got to do it because Parliament is absolutely blocked, and it is refusing to get Brexit done. That's the problem that we have, and I think there's many reasons why we need to get Brexit done. First of all, it's about democracy. The people of this country voted for Brexit 3.5 years ago, and it's about time that the politicians honoured their promise to the people of this country and delivered it. And secondly, the economy is being held back by our failure to get this thing over the line. People aren't making investments, they're not taking decisions. This country can take huge steps forward if only we can get Brexit done. And we can. We have a plan to do it, we have a deal, we Conservatives I should say. We have an agreement that is ready to go. It is oven ready. Whack it in. Gas Mark IV. I'm not a great cook, but you know what I mean. It's there. It's ready to go. Take it out. After Christmas, it's done. We can leave on January the 31st. And then we can get on with all the other things that we want to do in this country. Investing in the NHS. We're putting in the biggest investment in the NHS in living memory. Investing in our police. 20,000 more police officers, increasing funding for every primary and every secondary school in the country, doing stuff like gigabit broadband, 5G, 6G, as well as helping people with the cost of living across the country. So lifting up the living wage by the biggest ever amount. All those things we want to get on and do, and we're currently being held back by this blockage in Parliament. So we need to get Brexit done to take the country forward. And I think one point I would make about us Conservatives is that we believe strongly in public services. We want to invest in this great country, but we also support fantastic businesses. And one of the things about this extraordinary company is it not only builds, well, stuff for nuclear, which I suppose we're probably not meant to talk about. But I don't think it's that much of a secret. But you also make incredible equipment that enables this country to generate almost 50% of its power now from renewable energy. It's an absolutely extraordinary thing, and it's being done by the private sector. So we need a government that understands and champions the private sector, that understands the importance of having a dynamic market economy. And that's what you will get with this Conservative government. A government that backs British business, backs enterprise, but also understands that that is the way to pay for fantastic public services. That's our programme for the country. We want to unite and level up the country, get Brexit done, and bring this whole country together and take it forward. And I'm afraid, since this is an election, I have no choice but to contrast our approach with that of Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party. Because what they would do, I'm afraid, is instead of getting Brexit done, next year they would have another referendum on the EU. Yes, that's what he said, another referendum on the EU, which I think would be a complete waste of people's time, would delay the economic growth that we want to see, would mean yet more political wrangling and bickering, and then, of course, another referendum on Scotland as well. Does anybody here want 2 more referendums next year? How enthusiastic are you for 2 referendums next year? I think it's a complete waste of public time and public money. Let's get Brexit done. Let's make 2020 a year of prosperity and growth and take this country forward. That's our plan for the country. Thank you all very much for listening. It's a real honour and pleasure to be here. I'm going to try and answer any questions that you may have as fast as I can. But I want to give a shout out, by the way, whilst I'm here, for Matt Vickers and Steve Jackson, who are also here. There's Matt Vickers, who's the candidate for Stockton South, and Steve Jackson, who's the candidate for Stockton North. Thank you. So they are superb local candidates, in case you wish to ask them particular questions. But if you have any questions you want to fire at me, here I am. Yes, sir.
Working? Yeah, hello. Hi. My name is Matthew Ward. I'm a company ambassador for a logistics firm based just over the water. And moving goods is key to obviously getting this Brexit deal done. Your analogy of gas mark 4, it's going to take a while. I am a cook, so I can tell you need to be on gas mark 8. My point being is that we've got deals with other countries that took a long time. How confident are you of getting a deal that is good in a short period of time so that we can move on? Because this level of uncertainty is causing a lack of investment.
Well, thank you very much. And the whole point about the deal that we have got is it is literally ready to go. And every one of the 635 Conservative candidates standing at this election has signed up to that deal. It means we come out of the EU, we're able to do all the things that people were promised in the run-up to that referendum in 2016. We take back control of our money. We can take back control of our immigration system. I'm talking just now about the overdue public procurement rules. We'd be able to do things differently so as to ensure that, for instance, manufacturing of wind farms and wind technology took place here in this country. We'd be able to ensure that great deals came to this part of the world. There are all sorts of things that you can do. To say nothing of free ports, that we'd be able to do free trade deals, cutting VAT on tampons, you name it, changing our rules on animal welfare, which a lot of people in this country care about very much and quite rightly, so as to ban the shipment of live animals. We could do all those sorts of things. And that deal is ready to go. It needs no further negotiation. You get us back, as I say, put it in the oven, whatever, gas mark 8, but it's done by January. It's pretty crispy by January, but it'll be done. Any other questions? Sir?
What's your stance on social services? Because that seems to have gone right downhill over the last couple of years, you know. And the elderly need looking after.
They do.
The disabled need looking after.
They do. Well, we've put just into social care just in the last, since I've been Prime Minister, the last 120 days, we've put another £1.5 billion into that to support local councils who are at the front line of dealing with social services. We totally understand the pressure that we have as an ageing population in dealing with that issue. But what you need is to have a dynamic economy to do it. And the way to have a dynamic economy is to get Brexit done and move us forward. So we'll be putting a lot more into that. Yes, sir.
Putting money into colleges and sort of universities to train up students for the skill shortage.
Yes.
Because, like saying now, we've got high influx of foreign workers, and these new British ships is coming, getting built into Scotland. So you're getting half of the foreign workers and half the British workers, and there's loads of British men every day.
Thank you. Everybody hear the question? Make sure we invest in... Make sure...
Pass the mic.
Yeah.
Could it
Sorry.
the question, please? Yeah.
Sorry, it's my fault. Sorry.
Well, just as I was saying, that in these new ships that's going to be built up in Rosyth, it's been awarded to Scotland and Babcock's. It is going to be built with 100% British labour or an influx of foreign workers coming in again.
Thank you. We will make sure that, and if we can get Brexit done, as I want to do, then one of the things you'll be able to do is immediately take back control of your immigration system. And that means that you'll be able to have an Australian-style points-based system so that for every sector in the country, whether it's shipbuilding or agriculture or software or whatever, or fruit picking, we'll be able to decide who comes in on a democratic basis. And that doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily become hostile to people coming from around the world. I don't think that would be right for this country. It's not the way we are. But we will be able to make sure that you don't have large numbers of unskilled people coming here without a job to come to. And we will be able to ensure that young people growing up in this country get the skills they need to take the opportunities that this country is creating. And that's why you're right when you say we've got to invest in further education, in skills. And we're putting £2 billion now, this new government is putting £2 billion into further education colleges. University is great for some people, but our young people need to be learning on the job. And I saw at Govan the Type 26 frigates that are being built by BAE Systems. Absolutely fantastic jobs for young people. They didn't go to university, but they're absolutely brilliant young people, and they have jobs, high skill, high wage jobs that will last for decades. And that's what we want to see. We want to see young people going to high skill, high wage jobs. I want a high wage, low tax economy. That's our vision.
Is the ships going to cut in sections and distribute it around the other shipyards in Britain to keep the other yards open?
We are. I want the Type 31 is at the moment slotted to go, as you know, for Rosyth, but I'm looking at what we can do for Appledore, for yards around the country. My dream is to have a shipbuilding renaissance in this country. Because look at what we did. The Type 26 frigate is an incredible vessel, and it's not only generating jobs in the UK, but it's worth the contract is worth £14 billion just to Australia. We've sold 9 Type 26 frigates to Australia. We're going to sell more to Canada, more to New Zealand. If we can crack the American market, that would be absolutely huge. So I see a big future for shipbuilding in this country, and we're going to be investing in it.
You just said low tax. Is that low tax?
Can you put your hand up and we can use the mic and everybody can hear? That's great. Thank you.
You said low tax. Do you mean low tax for people like you, or low tax for people like us?
I mean low tax for people, for working people. And if you look at what we're doing and what I said in the last few days, we're going to be cutting national insurance up to 12,000. We're going to be making sure that we cut business rates for small businesses. We are cutting tax for working people, and that is the way. And by the way, I don't want to be excessively political about it, but I would just remind you that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party would whack up borrowing and whack up spending so high that they would put a £2,400 tax burden on every family. And if you look at what Corbyn has voted for when he's been in Parliament, he's actually voted against or in favour of tax rises of £7,800 on working families. Labour's policies inevitably lead to, they always say that they're just going to point the finger at billionaires or whatever. And in the end, it's everybody who pays. Because the problem with socialism is you always run out of other people's money. We want to have a high skill, high wage, low tax economy so that people can take their lives forward. That's what we want.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Where? Here. Yes.
Last night in the debate on the telly, Corbyn was on about the NHS and said he had proof that you were discussing with the Americans to sell it off. Now, can you guarantee us that you have never or will ever sell our national health?
I can, and I was amazed by what he had to say. And as I said last night, I think it's a complete invention. Let me just say it again, so you hear it from my own lips. I think the National Health Service is one of the greatest contributions this country has made to the world. It's one of the most beautiful things about our lives and about our society. And it's a very simple idea. When any of us gets ill, we all gather around and pay. It's a fantastic thing. Under no circumstances will the NHS be for sale, be on the table in any trade negotiation we do with anybody. Under no circumstances. Let me make that absolutely clear. We will continue to fund the NHS massively. And you heard what I had to say about putting £34 billion, a record sum, into the NHS, upgrading 20 hospitals, building 40 new hospitals, massively increasing the number of GPs and nurses that we're hiring across the whole NHS. We will invest in the long term, and we can because we understand what it takes to have a strong economy. That's why we can make those long-term investments, and we will. And I tell you something, there's a very clear reason why Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party produced this nonsense about free trade deals in the NHS, which is absolute myth, absolutely. And that's because they want to conceal the gap at the heart of their own policy on Brexit. They will not level with the public about what they want to do with Brexit next year. We've got a deal. We're ready to go. We can come out in January. Jeremy Corbyn wants to have a second referendum, but what he won't tell you is what position he would take in that referendum. I think I tried to ask him last night, did you see this thing? I asked him 9 times. I did not get an answer. And frankly, I do not see how you can lead this country if you cannot answer a very simple question: what side are you going to be on in a referendum of whether to leave or remain in the EU? I mean, that to me does not sound like dynamic leadership. We need to get this thing done. We need to move on. We have a plan, we have a deal, let's get it done and take this country forward.
Any more questions? We have one here.
Could you tell me why the remaining MPs in Parliament and Corbyn, for me, don't believe the 17.4 million people that voted for Brexit know what they're talking about? If it wasn't people, it wasn't the cats and dogs of the country that voted, was it? 17.4 million people. And I can't understand that. I can't get my head around that.
Well, I don't know why they won't do it. I don't know why they won't do it. I think there are all sorts of reasons. Most of the people in Parliament did vote for Remain. I think a majority of MPs voted for Remain, and I think they're profoundly wrong. I'm a Democrat. I believe that it was the right decision democratically. I think we should govern ourselves. But I also think that, as I was saying to the gentleman earlier, I think Brexit gives us great opportunities as a country to do things differently and to do them better. And we should be proud of our ability to do that. And we should be proud of our democratic freedoms. And we should not be ashamed. We can still be great friends and partners with the EU. Of course we are. We will do a great trade deal with them. Of course we will. That'll be no problem at all. But we should be able to determine our own democratic future. We should be able to control our own immigration policy. We should be able to control our own legislation and all the rest of it. And we can do that. So all I'm saying to you is that's why we're having to have this election now. Parliament's blocked. The 17.4 million have not been able to get their view properly expressed, and now's the time to do it. We've had 3.5 years of dither and delay. We don't want any more. Have I made myself clear on this?
Perfect.
Yes.
Any more questions? Yeah,
thank you.
One here, please.
Yes.
Look at these cameras here.
Yes, sorry.
We talk a lot about UK content, the offshore wind sector.
Yes.
Big thing for obviously companies like yourselves is to provide continuity for a workforce. Would your government guarantee UK content and reinforce those rules on UK content?
Yes, and I totally understand the importance of the UK content rules. And what I think, the point I was making earlier is that sometimes I think what can happen with OJU rules, the European EU public procurement rules, is that stuff that should be made in this country, for this country, to drive this country's energy sector, is made elsewhere or made by other companies than UK companies. And when you look at the sums that this government is investing in offshore wind, billions and billions of taxpayers' money going in, I would like to see us using the freedoms that Brexit is going to give us to invest those sums in driving manufacturing here in this country. It's a no-brainer. And look at what this company is doing. You're making incredible stuff for putting wind farms on the seabed. Amazingly, absolutely brilliant stuff. But a lot of it is being made by companies, when you look at it, by non-UK companies. And there's no reason at all why that manufacturing should not be happening in this country.
Any more questions? Got one here. Thank
Why are the government withholding the dossier on Russian interference in UK elections and referendums when it's already been given the green light by the secret services?
There's absolutely no evidence that I've ever seen of any Russian interference in UK democratic processes. And as for that particular report, I saw no reason whatever to change the timetable for publications of a report just because there was a general election going on.
Do you not think the public deserve to know that in advance of the vote?
Well, I saw no reason to change the timetable for the publication of a report simply because of the general election on. I can tell you I've seen no evidence of any Russian interference in any British democratic event.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Would your government have the flexibility financially to back companies to actually train young people from MVQ level 2, which are modern apprenticeships, to actual MVQ level 3s, which they actually need? I've worked with young lads who've had MVQ level 2s but been stuck in limbo because they couldn't move up to MVQ level 3s because companies couldn't afford to employ them.
Well, we're putting a huge amount, as I said earlier on, into education. I will look at what you're saying about NVQ3s and see what we can do to ensure we fund those as well. I've said that we're putting 2 billion into FE colleges. I will see. It may be that we already are going to do what you want, but I'm afraid I will have to get back to you about that. You are doing that, yeah. According to Bill, we are doing that already. Forgive me, but I'll be happy to supply you with more detail about what we're doing there.
More questions, anyone? Yeah.
Hello, Boris. We do a lot of work for BAE Systems. Will the nuclear defence programme still continue under your Prime Ministership?
Yes. Did everybody hear the question? Yes, it certainly will. And I believe that this is a great country that requires strong defences. And Britain's nuclear defences aren't just important for Britain, they're important for the defence of the whole of the West. And we are going to continue with investment in the Dreadnought programme and in our nuclear defences. That's absolutely clear. And I must draw attention to the stark contrast with the current Labour opposition, which Jeremy Corbyn certainly has been a unilateralist in the past and in favour of getting rid of Britain's nuclear deterrent. I do not think that is a sensible thing to do.
Right, I think that closes the questions for now. I'd just like to say a massive thank you to the Prime Minister for coming to Teesside and for you guys to give him such a warm welcome. Could we give him a round of applause, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.